Okay, everybody, welcome. Staff meeting Tuesday, July 8th. One topic, I believe.
Yep.
Strategic plan. Tom, take it away.
All right. We several months ago, we started a revision process of our current strategic plan, which was created in 2019. Couple reasons why we had gone through COVID. There's been a lot of change in just how government runs. And then we have pretty much a new commission with the exception of Mr. Meister and Mr. Howell. But so it was time to revise this. You should do it every 5 to 7 years anyway. That's what the management books tell you to do. So we started the revision again using PPMC, Misty and her team at WSU to come in and facilitate and help us with that. The reason we want to do is have a good, clean strategic plans that help set course for the organization. It creates a synergy between citizens, the elected officials, you, the commission, and the staff, so that we're all on the same page. We're rowing the boat the same way. There's a clear understanding, and citizens know what to expect, and staff knows what we expect of them. It also will help us budget better, and it will help us redefine and set KPIs, key performance indicators, for our staff to aspire to and for our citizens to recognize. So that's the goal of what we're trying to get accomplished here. I think, Misty, you'll start us up today and kind of talk this stuff through about process, and then we're going to get into the draft here in a minute, which I would describe, and I'll let Misty go, but I think it's a pretty mature draft at this point. It's not final. But good enough that I think we feel comfortable presenting it to you here publicly to take a look at. So
wonderful. Misty, welcome. Glad you're here.
Hi, thank you, everybody. I'm Misty Bruckner from the Public Policy and Management Center at Wichita State. It's been a great pleasure to work with your organization again on this effort. And I would just echo what Tom said. I think where we were in 2019 to where we are today just shows the growth and the strength of your organization for where you have been. Joining me today is Sarah Gooding, who has been a project lead on this. Just if you recall, Sarah was an intern the last time we did this, and now she's back helping to run the project. So proud of that. I also want to give a shout out to Jane Link, who was your project manager here at the county. She did a great job. She can't join us today, but want to make sure I recognize she made sure this shepherd through on time and got to you to the product that we have today. Where do I need to point? Very good. Thanks, Nicole. Okay, so just to kind of talk to you a little bit about the process that we used. We started with the 2019 strategic plan. As Tom mentioned, there's a lot of life that happened since 2019 and changes in service and public environment. And so we have not made any changes to the mission, vision, or values for the plan. And this plan is a little bit different. If you have looked at the last plan, there was a lot of work done by work groups. So there was like a public safety section or a human services section or a recreation type of effort. And this one really takes a look at a plan that is across the organization. What are the work that we do and what are the strategies that will impact everybody? So that's how we came up with those 5 goals. So it's an agenda to direct the work and also deliverables within them. What this does is it sets out the format, though, for each department to look at these goals, right? How do I fit into here? How am I advancing this work forward? So it's a little bit different format than what you saw in 2019. And again, I would just echo what Tom said, right? It shows the maturity of an organization that you can have that kind of agenda to help guide the work here. We're going to talk to you about the engagement and how this was informed, but I think just anchoring this on things that we heard from all of you when we did interviews and then when we did engagement, right? I think what we're wrestling with is how do we be most effective with what services that we're delivering here at Sedgwick County? How do we do that in the most efficient way possible? And how are we responsive, right? And so that's threading a needle because those are values that compete against each other with the amount of resources that you're using, right? Through how you staff those and the effectiveness of your program. And so that's what we're trying to get through with all of these. So when we talk about workforce and communication, right, we are really talking about how effective are we being and able to deliver those services and letting people know. When we talk about efficiency, you're going to see goals under services and resource allocation. You're going to see goals under technology that help get to the efficiency. And the last one then is like the big one, which is about public trust. How are we building public trust as we work through all of that? And that really is about responsiveness and what are we talking to the people about that we're doing? Are we meeting their needs? So you're going to see those kind of layered in all of this. So what we have done today, we started with focus groups that looked at what had happened since 2019. So what have we accomplished? So we did met with all 8 division areas that structured the 2019 plan. And just so you know, like there is information and reports that went along all of this that we worked with the leadership team to help in developing this. We did interviews, of course, with all of you. We interviewed other elected and appointed officials at the county. We did focus groups with 2 local government leadership organizations. We did focus groups with 2 regional business organizations. We did interviews with state of Kansas department officials. And we took all of that and then we took that back and did a round of employee engagement around 7 key themes. And then we took that back and did a strategy development session with approximately 50 employees. So there's been a lot of engagement to try to get feedback and get this directive. In the interim of those, we continue to meet with your leadership team to get guidance and directional decision-making on where we wanted to go with this. So we aren't done with all of this. And so there'll be a little bit more that we'll do as we get feedback from you and then finalize the plan for your approval at the end. I also just mentioned, right, that this helps set up departments to understand how they are moving into the strategic plan and how they fit in under this. So we're going to talk a little bit about a strategic plan template and about key performance indicators that we've been working with. And Sarah Gooding has been lead on that work. So I'm going to ask her to come up and walk through what that has been like and what we've done.
Hey, Sarah, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Misty. So as Misty mentioned, one of the goals, and it was a goal in the previous plan, but we're trying to give the tools to carry it forward this time, is to really take the plan that is living at the highest levels of Sedgwick County and have a top to bottom consistency with department level strategic plans. There is a desire in the organization to have every department have a strategic plan. Many departments do. Some departments don't. Some department plans are outdated or don't necessarily align with strategic movement. They might be more of a list of desired checkbox type things. And so one of our deliverables is that we've created a template to guide creation of strategic plans for any department that doesn't have one or departments that need to update their strategic plan. On the heels of updating strategic plans or creating strategic plans within departments, each department also has a template to guide creation of key performance indicators. And this is really challenging when you try to drill down the work of especially your large departments, but your small departments too, trying to drill it down to a few key measurable pieces of information to talk about efficiency, effectiveness, responsiveness, and especially when you're looking at it as decision-making in a tight fiscal environment. So we're trying to provide meaningful tools for each department to work through to really first take time and look at their purpose, their alignment, celebrating all that they do, and then looking at how that fits with the overarching county goals that have been identified in the strategic plan. And from there, narrowing it down to what is actually feasible to measure, what is meaningful, and what is going to give the commissioners the information that you all need for your decision-making processes. And so we developed both tools in consultation with your budget analysts and your budget officer and finance department, because we know that they are key players in helping to give guidance and feedback around the KPI development. They're also the ones who are being assessed by the Government Finance Officers Association on their budget and their deliverable product. And obviously we want to equip them to score very well in that measurement as well, that ranking. And so where we drill down with all of that is trying to come up with a few meaningful KPIs in each department. We turned around following creation, having those vetted internally, and then we offered a training session for anybody, leadership, department director, budget analyst, who is involved in creation of those. We're actually going to offer that again. It is a recorded training session. We had a recording glitch, so we'll make it right by having one more opportunity, and then it will be recorded and live on as an asset to guide the process and to refer back to. Going forward, we know this is still challenging for the departments, and so PPMC does anticipate being involved and accessible to help departments as they work through formation, and hopefully we'll be able to do some workshops or some things like that along the way to assist the departments. And so we're excited to see the work carry forward and really go top to bottom throughout the organization. And so our next area, we actually get into the goals. And so we'd like for each director to be able to share their goals, their KPIs, and then we'll take time for questions at the end. So Lindsay's up first.
Yeah, thanks. So take it easy on me because I am first. So this is a goal that will be owned by finance. I do want to make it crystal clear that this is not something that came from finance only. This is in response to what you heard from and what you all said too through all of those engagements that Misty outlined. So I also want to take a minute to remind folks that because it's a strategic plan, this is aspirational. It's not what we do every single day as a part of our normal business practice. That's just a part of doing our normal job. So this is going to be where we focus our additional time and energies, which also means that this becomes the priority. This is going to become what drives our budget process, what we're going to use or what I'm going to encourage our budget team to use in determining what comes to you as recommendations to be funding. So it's really, really important that we have your buy-in for this because this is going to drive so much of what your budget office and what your leadership team does. So with that, the goal here obviously is something that you guys have talked about for years. And that is balancing community service expectations with their fiscal expectations. And the way it's written here is balance community service expectations with the willingness to pay through taxation. So the strategies that are outlined on this sheet are supported by these KPIs. So the first strategy is basically to look at, thank you, reviewing our current services at a department level and basically having some kind of strategy to evaluate those and identify opportunities for efficiencies. And we have a couple ideas for how we can do that with some of our emerging leaders in the organization to form some teams and do some analysis at the same time using the departmental experts who actually understand the data. But this is high level for now, and these strategies will be fleshed out as we go. The next is to develop processes to assess potential service alignment, sharing, or consolidation as part of an efficiency process. And that can be both internal and external. So we've heard a lot from the commission recently and even other governments about opportunities for collaboration or to share service when there might otherwise be some redundancies. So what we're going to do through this strategy is come up with some kind of framework to be able to assess those and maybe prioritize those opportunities as they come up. The third strategy is to develop a cost effectiveness metric to evaluate return on investment and then maintain a ratio greater than 1-to-1 at the Sedgwick County organization level. And I will tell you, this is the one that intrigues me the most, but also scares me the most because government's not really, as we've talked about, it's not about ROI. But at the same time, we need to be able to have some kind of value metric that we can share to the community to show what they're getting for the dollars that they spend with us. Then finally, we know that Sedgwick County as a political subdivision of the state is limited in how we can pursue revenue opportunities because we're a creature of the state. But that doesn't mean that there aren't other places doing other things that we can't learn about and then potentially come to you and ask for your support and advocating to the legislature for opportunities. So that will be one of those things that we'll work with, GFOA, ICMA, NACO, some of those groups out there. We don't want to recreate a wheel that's already been created, but this can it can make it a priority for our time and resource. That may mean other things will fall to the wayside that aren't priorities that are identified in the strategic plan, but that's what will divert our attention. Maybe the budget office in their off season, this becomes a higher priority for their work, all at the same time they're working on KPIs. So moving to the key performance indicators, you all have heard the conversation about the price of government. We talk about that every year at your budget retreat. And so one of the metrics that we look at is revenues brought in by the government relative to the personal income in our community. And our standard has always been to be less than a penny. We are about 0.86 of a penny right now. And that's about the lowest we've gotten. If you remember, the price of government basically tells you when it gets too low, maybe people are happy about how much they're paying, but potentially there's dissatisfaction with the level of service. And conversely, when it gets too high, there may be dissatisfaction with the cost. And maybe we're providing platinum level service instead of gold level service, which is what people would expect. So that's the first KPI that we think matters now. The only challenge with that one is it's once a year. We look at last year's metrics. And so that doesn't necessarily give you an eye on what's happening today, but that's just something to keep in mind. And then the second one, you'll hear a lot about a community survey. We already know that there's one that's funded in this current year budget, but going forward, a lot of the feedback on service and resource optimization, again, balancing service expectations with fiscal expectations, we have to hear back from the community on what that means. And so we want to go through this community service or community survey process, establish a baseline, and then improve on that over time. So we don't necessarily know what that baseline is right now. We have no way of knowing because we haven't asked those questions, but that'll be something that we would like to see going forward. So this will be that service and resource optimization strategy that we would propose to focus on for the next 3 years and would be part of your budget development. So any questions? Oh, Commissioner Howell's already smiling.
Very helpful. Sure.
Thank you. Just curiously on that 1-to-1, is this related to what we used to call a 1-to-1.3? So this is different.
It's different. So that's more of an economic development standard. If we're going to invest in an economic development project, we want that to be the return for the taxpayer. I think on this one, it's more about general, just government service overall and making sure we're providing value to the community. And so we don't know what that metric is going to look like or what those measures are specifically going to be. But again, we're hoping somebody else out there has done this and we can learn from them.
I just think as it's currently worded, it's a little bit ambiguous. I'm not quite sure exactly. If I was reading this and had no history with the county, I'm not sure I would understand what this is talking about. I guess I'm not so sure. I like the way it's currently worded, but I think I understand what you're trying to say there. We'll make sure we're effective, essentially, right? And then the price of government. I understand that's not something we created that metric.
Right.
That's a metric and speaker. Okay. Every time I use that, I love that, by the way. I use it all the time when I talk to different groups, but I always have to explain it. I'm just wondering why they don't just use like a percentage, like less than 1% of personal income.
I couldn't tell you. I did not develop the measure. I think it came around when I was in middle school. So I can read the book and see, I'll reread the book and see if I can figure out why they don't.
Just to rephrase that, it would be easier to rephrase it and make it that simple, really. But
and we can recast it that way if that's the will of you guys.
And to be clear, also, just to be clear, we're talking about the price of Sedgwick County government. We're not talking about government.
Correct. Oh, this is Sedgwick County strategic plan on.
It's not clear when you read it, but I understand that myself. Thank you.
Hey, Lindsay, this is not a priority, but I would be curious on that same metric, what some comps are to other counties.
Absolutely. What?
I don't know if your budget office has that or not, but if they can give us some comps to some of our, maybe Johnson, Shawnee, just some comps to see how we're measuring.
There are comps available. They provide different services than we provide. So we can certainly show you that. But when we've tried to do those comparisons, it's a challenge because
Not apples to apples.
Right.
Yeah. Got it. Well, I'm just trying to figure out where we measure. I think that's the conversation. That sounds wonderful to me. 86 cents per.
It's not even a whole cent.
Right. Or 8.86. It sounds great. I have nothing to compare it to.
Right.
We may be bad. I don't know. I don't think we are, but I
assure you we are not.
I have that indication. I have nothing to compare it to.
So we do actually compare it to our own history. That's our own history is that we've radically reduced that number.
That's good. Okay.
And one thing we can do, so even if I can't put it in these terms, we do have other AAA peers that we are measured against when they are evaluating.
I think that'd be helpful. Any comp, I think.
And they've got liquidity and similar measures to this that might tell a story. So we can easily produce that.
Appreciate that. I like that metric. Okay. Other questions for Lindsay? Okay, Sarah, do we want to just keep going by department? Okay. Okay, Sheena.
Okay, we are going to talk about workforce and culture. Our goal is to enhance Sedgwick County's commitment to employees by supporting and equipping them with the resources necessary to deliver exceptional public service. One of our key drivers in creating this goal is we want to keep moving the organization forward through our workforce. And so many of the factors you will see here are focused around having partnerships within the department and communication within the department. So we have 3 strategies. The first one is to implement strategically structured compensation plans that are competitive within the local market and aligned with organizational goals. So as Lindsay mentioned, a lot of the things that we're putting in our strategies is what we'll look for in budget requests and things of that nature. So we wanted to make sure that we align a strategy so we can request market studies, and we know that we're moving those compensation studies forward. Part of that is making sure we're comparing the correct jobs, as Lindsay mentioned in her statement. Things aren't always apples to apples, so keeping up to date on that. And then also just continuing that pay poll, that discussion that we have with commission every year when it comes to budget. Our second strategy is to provide opportunities for professional growth through training, development, and mentoring for middle management. We really want to focus on growing our employees and having them have careers here at Sedgwick County. So we want to take a deep dive in taking that training development with them. And third, align staffing strategies with service demands. This is really going to focus on human resources, partnering with departments and understanding what their staffing needs are. We know that this will be really driven by data. It's very hard for us to walk into a department and say, you need 10 new employees. Well, we don't know what those services are or what those expectations are from the public. So it'll be a partnership. And again, we're working with ERP and IT to get a lot of data about workforce, shifts needed, things like that. So that will be really driven off the data that we get back. We have 2 key performance indicators. The first one is to maintain employee satisfaction scores greater or equal to prior years. This is something we started 2 years ago. So we do have a baseline of that to kind of fill where employee satisfaction is at. We know that if employees are satisfied, they tend to stay at an organization. Again, going back to, we want to foster that career development and growth with our employees. And then finally, maintain annual employee retention rates at 80% or higher. It's not at 100% because we do want some turnover. Some turnover is healthy. We just don't want a very large percentage of our workforce turning over. So again, 15 to 20% is very healthy for our organization. Again, we will own this thing, but it's going to be a partnership, a lot of partnerships with departments and working alongside them. Any questions for workforce? Yeah.
Thanks, Sheena. I really like your 1, 2, and 3, how to get all that down. I think that's number 1 is what we've been doing. It's front mind. I love the professional growth and aligning the staffing because things are changing so
Yes.
rapidly. So I hope the employees and departments understand if they're a service that's no longer needed or is outdated, all those kind of things. But I'm sure you've identified the 3 things really well.
Other questions? We're 80% or higher is the metric on the KPI. Where are we at today? Do you know offhand?
I could look for you. I'm not 100% sure, but I'll get that to you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks. Okay. Scott.
Good morning, Commissioner. Scott Wagner, your CIO. Today, I'm basically going to be sharing information that was done by my predecessor and the team due to my relative short tenure. But I am excited to help and dig into our department and divisional strategies in the next months. So moving forward, I guess like finance, technology is everywhere. It's part of everyone's world. So I view this as a shared goal. A lot of folks contributed that weren't just in IT to these ideas. So our overall goal is to securely leverage technology to enhance employee and customer experience and efficiency. Securely was chosen as the first item just to basically reinforce its importance. The bad guys are out there and they're always trying to get in. In terms of strategies, we have 4. First, we want to develop processes for efficiency and innovation. I think historically, innovation is something that IT has struggled with, and so want to increase that, basically bring some competitive advantages, so to speak, to our world in that sense. We want to collaborate around funding needs, options, and models to address technological needs. I think Lindsay mentioned ROI earlier. I would love to kind of take that mindset, if not in the big picture, at least for decision making. Third, mitigate risks related to technology. That's kind of the theme of security. Make sure that we're keeping secure. And then finally, expand and improve accessibility to public services through improved technology. For me, this is what we've called web enablement, trying to make sure that we are as frictionless as possible as we interact with citizens. In terms of KPIs, frankly, these are a little subject to change, but at this point we have increased satisfaction from employee engagement survey related to equipment and resource availability. While a PC that is turned off is the most secure device we can have, it is not what we need. We need our systems to be up and available to you all so we can make a difference. Second, we want to increase our community satisfaction results around the use of technology that's kind of furthering that idea that, web enablement and making us easier to work with. And then finally, again, on the security theme, we want to increase that education to departments. Security is everyone's challenge, as we know. That's kind of a theme. And so we continue that each and every day. That's the strategies and KPIs. Any
Great.
questions?
Scott, thank you. Appreciate that. Any questions? That's good. Very good. Thank you. Nicole, is this you?
Yes, it is. Hello, everyone. Nicole Gibbs of Strategic Communications. I am helping Tanya Cole with this today. So for communications, like everyone said, it is a organizational wide goal. It's not just our department to carry, but we will be helping with it. Our goal is straightforward, yet it's essential to enhance transparency and public awareness of Sedgwick County services and the issues that affect our residents by providing accessible, timely, and meaningful information. This goal has 4 key strategies that we're focusing on. The first one is about engagement, with the goal to deepen collaboration with county departments and community partners to ensure that we present data and the community dashboard metrics in a way that informs and empowers. The second strategy is overall about capacity building. We want to work to strengthen communication capabilities across the organization so that every department can effectively share its impact. Number 3, we're focusing on technology. We want to leverage modern tools to expand our reach and make public information more easily accessible anytime and anywhere. And our last strategy is about targeted messaging. We want to use the insights from the community survey that we are going to put together and produce this fall. We'll align our communications with the community needs and track how we'll be meeting them. To measure our progress, we're establishing clear key performance indicators, including benchmarks for reaching key stakeholder groups. And we'll also track digital engagement metrics like visits and time spent on county platforms. It's really important to focus on these things, especially because communication is vital for our organization, but also with the goal to position us to be more effective, build trust, and deliver transparency as the community expects and deserves. And I'll stand for any questions.
Okay, very good. Questions? I'm looking at the community dashboard. I would love to tell the story more of all the metrics that are on here. I think this is really unique. I think it's very transparent. Do we have any idea on usage?
I don't have that information, but I can look it up for
Would you
you.
mind just letting me know? Yeah, let me know on usage. This is again, going through it again. This is an incredible tool that I think we have. So, okay, questions for Nicole? Now, is Tanya going to be running this, or is it Tanya and Nicole, or? Okay, it's Tanya. Got it. Good job pinch hitting. Okay, next up, public trust.
This one is maybe a little more squishy than the other things. It's hard to think about how do you trust entity and organization because trust is pretty much interpersonal. But our goal is to grow trust through connected community, through consistent community collaboration, transparency, and exceptional public service. We've got a number of different strategies that have been identified. We want to increase public and community engagement to the county officials and employees. I think that the elected officials in particular do a really good job interacting with the community. We want to intentionally have department experts. We've got lots of expertise across the organization, and we'd like to increase engagement intentionally in that regard. We want to connect the citizenry with the folks that are delivering services to them. A couple of different ways. One way is through that community survey. We want to use that information and that data to help inform things that we do as an organization. But we also want to make sure that we're out in the community connecting with people so that they understand that there's a person that they can, if they're stuck with some part of the process, a person that they can call. A long, long time ago, my daughter asked me, what do I do at work? And I mean, she was probably 3. And I said, I think about things and I talk to people. And that's really what all of us in this room do, is we're thinking about things and we're talking to people. We need to be talking about the things that are important to them, and we'll know that through that employee survey. Again, we want to use the data to manage that performance, and that's where that survey comes in. And then that third strategy is to identify some baseline measures and indicators related to public service beyond the community survey. We know that there are other ways that we can interact with people, and it may be a series of listening sessions. We've tried some of those things with the budget process. I think there are other things that we can do. Again, we want to learn from other communities and what they're doing successfully to engage and get feedback from the citizenry and the community. And then our 2 key performance indicators are increased satisfaction related to public trust measures. Through that survey, we want to develop a baseline, and then as we go forward, we want to continue to see that improve. And then we also want to increase community engagement through the number of presentations and community meetings that we and our staff are involved in. Rusty and I had the ownership on this particular one, but we've got, between the 2 of us, we've got lots of departments that interact with the community out in the public and deliver this direct services. So we want to make sure that the people who are responsible for those services are meeting with the community and understanding their needs and what's. And Rusty, I don't know if you've got anything else you want to cover that I missed.
That's great.
Thank you, Tim. Rusty, thanks. Okay, that's all the departments, right? That's it. Okay. Misty?
So kind of what's coming up is taking feedback from all of you,
Yeah.
changes to this. Glad to answer any questions. We also, once we have your feedback incorporated, we will be engaging with employees, getting them to think about these kind of 5 topic areas and how that fits within their own department. What can they do to build trust? What they do to use technology different? How can they improve communication, right? So that from the bottom to the top, everybody's thinking about these 5 goals in a way that fits in with their departments.
Okay, great. All right, questions and comments?
I think, thanks, Misty and Sarah. It's nice to see that you're no longer an intern and you've grown so well. Anyway, there's been a reference to a public survey a couple of times. So based on, I think, what Commissioner Blumenbach said in the past, I get a little nervous about how skewed it can be on the responders loading up the responses. So just caution. I think last time we did it, you did a nice job of I can't remember what it was, putting in the zip code or your some identifying thing to kind of that's my only caution. Or
Yeah, I think it's one point of the feedback, and there's ways with surveys to make sure you're getting an appropriate response that's representative.
It's good. Appreciate that. Commissioner Howe?
Thank you, Chairman. I was just going to say, similar to the previous comments, and sometimes we don't get to really see the details of these types of efforts until it's at the very last step. In other words, we're seeing the data. Sometimes it leaves me disappointed because there's things I would like to clarify or ask. Maybe, I guess I'd just like to be a part of the process, at least a little bit, and help, given a chance to see what's going to be asked, make sure we're not missing something, or maybe there's something more important than that to us. So as this is being developed, I don't know if this is planned to be like a yearly event. Is this survey going to be something we'll do?
That would be our recommendation.
And then of course, how is that going to be done? I'd like to know more about, how do we find the participants to fill out the survey and what that process is. But I do think it's a really great initiative to go in this direction. I just want to make sure that we have, I guess, a chance to be a little bit aware of how this is being formulated, so we don't miss opportunities. We get the data back. It really is meaningful to what we're looking for to make our best decisions.
Makes sense.
And then just a couple follow-up questions on a couple things here. On communications, I don't know if it belongs in here or not, but I would really like to see an effort. Maybe this ought to be a goal, maybe it's not a goal, but I'd like to see an effort again to collaborate with our cities and other, school partnership, other partners to find a joint method of getting information to people who are civically minded. They want to go and say, rather than having to go to every single city website or every single school website. And again, we have many of them. There's so much inconsistency on how to get to data. Again, if we could become a collector of those resources and simply host that in some way, my idea has been that I would like to see us, have a joint contract. We would actually broadcast those meetings if they're produced by the city or the school or whatever, and have that data FTP to some broadcast partner, if you will, and that people would be able to tune into, public meetings that are interesting to them. It should be something that the county almost can't really afford to do this on our own anymore, and a lot of cities can't really afford it either. So, but together, I think we probably could. So, as a goal, I just want to restate once again, I would love to see us, develop, if you will, a vision for what this would look like, and reach out to all those partners and see how much interest there is. And I think ideally, this becomes something where people who don't have access to necessarily Facebook or YouTube or streaming Wi-Fi services, that there's a way that for them to get to the information is easily as possible through multiple formats. So anyway, I would like to see something on the communications site about that goal, if that's okay. And then I guess my only other question was on the retention piece, that 80%, is there a time frame associated with that 80%? Is it per year?
Yeah, we would look over that on an annual basis.
So our hope is to retain 80%. Is our retirements excluded from that calculation? So people are essentially quitting Sedgwick County, you go to another job somewhere for whatever reason, we're losing 20% because they found something else to do that they like better. So
we capture all of that. All of that information. So we could look at involuntary separations as well, voluntary separations. We have many different metrics we can.
Retirements.
I guess I'd just like to see the word, what time frame is this 80% per year? If that makes sense. Just it would help me a little bit. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for doing this. Going through several facilitation exercises and hosting them myself over the years. I guess I'll ask the question, is this a living document? Is this something part of the control method that will continue to?
Yes, Commissioner. I think that's all, like Lindsay mentioned this, right? This should be stuff that stretches you a little bit. So, and you're going to try some of these strategies and they may not be successful to getting to your goal. So yes, you should be revisiting.
And that's kind of where I was going next as part of the control process. Is this something that we can, some kind of survey, feedback, roundtable, sticky exercises, some way that we can go out and measure and try to look for success. And if it's not what we want, maybe quarterly, annually or something, we can make adjustments rather than going the full 5 years to determine, hey, that's not, we're not really getting the public trust we need. We need to be putting more into this communication or more into this or that kind of a way for us to handle levers.
Yep, exactly. It's a great idea and a really best practice of how to use this tool. So, yep.
Thank you.
Good. And I would just questions on the KPIs. I appreciate that the KPIs are only limited 2 to 3. I think that's good. I've been a part of organizations where you get 7, 8, 10 KPIs and it's overwhelming and it's not productive. Some of these KPIs are very specific. Some lack specificity with data and tangible measurements. Is that intentional or is it? I mean, some of it's just like grow the.
Some of it is because they don't have the data yet.
Okay.
And
no
so
baseline.
some of this is like how we establish a baseline this first year to get that data in, especially if it's related to the survey, or some of these are aspirational, right? Like, how do we even create the language or create the data that support those? So those are not as clarified, but something you should definitely be looking for in the next year to tighten those up.
The second question on KPIs, and Lindsay, go ahead if you want to finish on that.
Real quick on the KPIs. So this is the organization strategic plan,
Department heads is.
but we're going to have, as described earlier, there's going to be departmental level strategic plans too. And those will have KPIs and those will be reported out in your budget book at a departmental level. And that's where we've kind of been dinged by GFOA these last few years is not having robust KPIs at that departmental level. So while yes, at a high level, this is it, there will be a lot.
Well, that was my second question was I'm really interested in seeing the department KPIs and some more specificity on some data in those. And that was the question is I assume that was what was coming. Is that happening now? Are the department discussions happening now or is that next stage?
So the timeline, I think our hope was to have it earlier this year and this process just to really get the engagement. We didn't move that quickly. So the goal is to have strategic plans at the department level in place by the end of the third quarter of this year. And then to have the KPI workshopping really take place in the fourth quarter of this year. So there will be some budget analyst review and feedback, and that way the KPIs can roll forward into next year's budget process.
Okay, that's great. Is there anything you need from the commission to move this forward at this point or to help this process?
Yeah, let me put a qualifier to this. So first of all, in government, it is very easy to not be accountable. It is. This group and with PPMC's help here, this document helps us be accountable to ourselves. Now, the leadership team you see in here, these are busy people. We had this discussion a lot through the course of this development is there's only so many minutes in a day. We sometimes are guilty in this organization of bogging ourselves down with operations, and then we don't get to step back for big ticket things like this and operational research and development. We need to make time for that. So the ask is for your patience and we always try to accommodate commissioner and citizen requests ASAP. I mean, we just see that as part of our job. When the staff gets busy with this kind of big ticket operation, sometimes that requires a little bit of patience. We ask for your patience as a commission as we go through this to maybe something takes a day or two to get back to you and to be patient along those lines. So that's our ask as we go forward on this is to understand that the staff is wading pretty deeply into this. We want to hold ourselves accountable. Okay. So go ahead, Lindsay.
Well, and I think we'll need, from a budget perspective, we will need you all to adopt a strategic plan because this is one thing that we also have to include in our budget book is a section on a strategic plan. And you'll notice in the recommended budget you get tomorrow, we don't have that section in there because we are going through this exercise, but we will need your authorization for this at some point as setting that over.
At some point, not before adoption date.
No,
Okay.
no.
Between now and end of year.
Got it. Perfect. I think that's
Nice.
I think, Tom, I think that's fair though. And I think this commission wants to be supportive of this effort because I think it's needed and helpful in accomplishing what we're trying to do for the community. So I think I appreciate the work being done by staff and all the time invested PPMC. Obviously, thank you for leading this. And I really enjoyed our conversations that we've had in this regard too. So we look forward to supporting this in the future. Anything else? No questions?
Thank you for your time.
That it?
Appreciate it. Oh.
Off topic, please. Regarding just a quick one regarding the agenda tomorrow. Recall commissioners, I mentioned that Sheena would give a report of the air show, the welfare show. And so we could do it with your permission at the beginning of the meeting. Meeting could be longer. We could do it under other, but maybe efforts of time with Sheena. I mean, I say Sheena, I meant Anissa.
I was going to say, I don't know anything about it.
Yeah. Anissa, sorry. Anyway, if we permission in the beginning of the meeting.
Do it during county announcements, maybe? Are you okay with that? Let's do that. Yeah, it's a big deal. So there's a lot to report back.
Okay.
Okay, very good. Okay, everybody, see you tomorrow at 9 a.m.